Montgomery County School Board. Hopefully our PA will work good. I'm going to try to keep it in my hand a little more tonight. And one of the things I wanted to start out with before we go into our agenda is obviously the reason you're here tonight is people are passionate on both sides of this. But the rallies and the demonstrations stopped when you entered this auditorium. And that's what we expect tonight during the board meeting. This board doesn't make the laws that govern the state of Tennessee as it pertains to schools, but we do have to adhere to them. And part of that is the moment of silence. So one of the things that we'll ask is we will maintain an orderly environment, or I will have you removed. Hope everybody adheres to that. At this time, we will ask you to stand for a moment of silence, and I'll ask Ms. Walker to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, we'll welcome you to our meeting. If you do have a cell phone, we're going to ask you to turn that off or put that on silence mode not to disrupt the meeting. With that said, we do have all members present. We're going to move to item C on our agenda, which is approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item D was approval of the consent agenda. There's a laundry list of things on here that we discussed at the work session this past Monday. I don't think there's anything that's been added to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Wait just a second, Ms. Christine. Nothing has been added, but we did have one update or correction on the classified pay scale. We had a line that did not have correct numbers on it for actually our shipping and receiving position, and that's being corrected. It's at the bottom of page 3 if you want to take a look at that, second from the bottom. And it was just a correction. We had an oversight. The numbers did not graduate like they should have over the years of experience. So we have corrected that, and I want to just make sure you're aware of it.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion on any of these items? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. That brings us to item E, the director's report.
Okay, just a couple of things. We did finish our 10-ready testing last week. Picked up the completed tests today. We're shipping those back to the state. Went better than expected, and so I'll be meeting with the principals in the next week or so after spring break to discuss some of the processes and procedures maybe that we need to correct before we do part 2, which is actually going to be the first week of May. So I just want to give you an update on that. You also have the February monthly financial reports we gave you last week, January's, and these are the updates for February. Nothing, again, outstanding on those or really new information. We're tracking pretty consistently at this point. We are meeting with principals to solidify the budgets for the schools, and we'll have that information collected after spring break. And then I'll meet with the directors to get their budgets set. So April, we should have a pretty good idea of where we're headed on budgets. So that will help as we enter that time period. And one other thing, just a reminder on the BEP enhancement. We're really trying to get the word out about our concern for the allocations that we're going to be receiving next year. The initial estimate for us was $330,000, which out of a $228 million enhancement was not what we expected. A lot of surrounding counties are getting over $1 million. When I researched this and asked the State Department why that was the case, we have been in stability for the last 2, possibly 3 years. And what that means is we had a drop in enrollment, but the state maintained our BEP funding level and kept giving us the same amount of money even though we had less students. So the last 2 years we've received about $926,000 each year that was the stability money. So we were actually supposed to get $1.2 million in the enhancement, but because the stability funding goes away this year, they subtracted the $926,000, so we're actually receiving now approximately $373,000, which obviously is not the pay raise that we would like to be able to institute at this point, but no decisions have been made on that yet. We're hoping as we work through the budget process that we'll find other funding sources and opportunities to enhance that amount to give the teachers the raises that we would like to. And that's all I have, Chairman.
Any idea on BEP funding? When will we start to see those numbers?
We should know something by mid-April, and that will give us a much better idea of where we're headed with this. But right now, those are the initial estimates, and I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that and understands why that is happening, because it's kind of beyond our control at this point. At some point, that $926,000 is going to go away. It didn't go away this year, but at some point that we're going to have to make up that deficit, and that's not a question that the state is answering for me at this time. So I'll keep you posted as I get more information.
Okay, any other questions for Dr. Long? Okay, thank you. Business item F, old business, Franklin County School Clubs and Organizations.
Based on the discussion that happened at the work session last week, I have made some revisions. They are in red on these 3 documents. The first one is the policy, adding some additional verbiage that will reflect in how we're setting up the procedures for this. So we want those to mirror each other and make sure that our procedures match our policies match procedures. So that's why those are added in there, starting about line 7. So if you have any questions on those changes.
I think line 7 is one of the ones that we, or at least I want to discuss about instead of an opt-out, an opt-in. And that would be for all clubs to require parental permission to join.
Okay.
And that's prior to joining the club. Okay. And the difference in that right now, I think, is what our policy says is we basically show a laundry list of clubs that we have or offer, and the parent can write a note and say.
Correct. It's opt-out right now, but you
I would oppose such a revision to this policy, or such a revision to this proposed policy. I think it creates an unnecessary administrative hurdle to require students to get in touch with their parents, to get their parents' permission to join an after-school club. It has the potential of excluding kids, students who have difficulty getting that permission from their parents. It creates an issue where there are 2 parents that don't live in the same household, where there's not joint custody, where the parents might have a conflict in terms of what they believe is appropriate for the child. The father might approve, the child might not approve, or the mother might not approve. Sorry, the father might approve, the mother might not approve, or vice versa. I think it inserts the school too much into that initial decision. If it's decided that there is an issue, the parents have an option to address that, and that is to, under this proposed policy, inform the school in writing that they don't want the child to participate in the club. Then the school will honor that. But there's no need to create an exclusive environment. That is one that tends to exclude as opposed to one that tends to include. And by making this an opt-in policy as opposed to an opt-out policy, I believe it would be one that would limit the opportunities available to students, I believe it would be one that would limit the number of students that would be able to participate in these programs through no fault of their own.
I think the parents have the choice personally to make that choice with their child, especially when they're under legal age.
I agree with you. I think the parents deserve to know what the children are involved in. And I think that the children are still minors. And the parents are the ones who should be deciding what they want them to participate in and what they don't want them to participate in.
I agree with that too, because there's already enough, it seems like, confusion in the day and time we live in. There's a lot of single parent homes, or a child is with one parent this time, or this amount of time, and this parent this amount of time. But I think that it's their decision and their responsibility, and they ought to have the knowledge about what their child either participates in or wishes to participate in. That's something that needs to be decided by them and not afforded to or made available by a school system.
I'd like to make another point here. This is a proposal that's come forward after the formation and approval of the GSA at Franklin County High School. Prior to January, there was never any discussion by this board, to my knowledge, discussion among any administrative employees in the district or at Franklin County High School about seeking approval from parents before their child participated in Fellowship of Christian Athletes, or P7, which is a Bible study group. It's a double standard.
The last time I will warn everyone in here, if you demonstrate, you will be removed. If we have to remove the whole auditorium. I think that's clear enough. I think if we use that rationale, Mr. Tucker, then based on that, we can never change another policy as it pertains to clubs and organizations, because it will always be referred to at the last club that was established. It's always going to be directed at that. I think when you're affecting all clubs equally, I think you can address it.
As an attorney who represents a local school district and a local government regularly against federal civil rights claims, I respectfully disagree.
Okay. We have legal counsel, and we conferred with legal counsel, and our legal counsel told us that adding this language to this policy is perfectly acceptable. Would I be correct in stating that, Mr. Hager? Any other, on the policy changes on this one in particular, any other concerns or additions that we need to look at? The only one I still have somewhat of an issue with in line 5 is the director of schools shall be notified when a new club or organization is established. That really doesn't achieve what I was after achieving, which is the director of schools should be in the decision-making process. In this instance, that really doesn't, in my mind, change what we're currently doing. Okay. And I may be off base there.
I've seen it in policy both ways in reviewing it. I don't know if Chuck wants to speak to that or not, but I have seen it both ways, that it has to be approved at the central office level, or that it can be approved at the school level. So I think the board would be okay to do either way.
Or opting into a club?
No, for establishing a club.
It needs to be a school level.
School level?
Yes.
Okay.
And if there's an appeal, then that would give you the record, an avenue for appeal to the board. Where if it comes to the board first, there's no appeal.
We're not asking it to come to the board. We're asking for the director of schools to be involved in that process, not the board.
I think the director is involved in as much as she is the supervisor of all principals in the system. And then if it becomes a problem, beyond that, it becomes the Board of Education where it's at.
Any other on this policy in particular?
I would just like to ask, Mr. Taggart, did I understand that in our legislature now, there is pending legislation regarding parents approving participation in clubs?
Yes, ma'am. There's a bill pending in the House and Senate committees. It's on the schedule for this week that changes the law around now to say that prior approval from parents would have to be given for students to join clubs in school.
So then it would become state law that would be required
If the legislature enacts that, yes, ma'am.
if they pass.
It would be state law.
So, to kind of add to that and make sure I understood this right, it is already, this I guess is from Mr. Taylor, it's already the law in the state of Tennessee that if any kind of sexual orientation is taught in a school system, a public school system in Tennessee, the primary emphasis has to be abstinence. Was I correct in understanding that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's up to building level administrators or whoever's, maybe that's assigned to the system, whatever the case may be, but it is incumbent upon them to make sure that's been adhered to. That's a building level responsibility, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I have a question about that. Does that apply to schools that meet after hours, or clubs rather that meet after or before school, as opposed to curriculum-based instruction?
It has primary emphasis on the curriculum of the school system. As I told the board, there's only one school system in the state that has a approved sex education course. And in order to have such a course, you would have to have it approved by the State Board of Education as a special course. If you're going to have a school sponsored or an activity at that school, on school campus, for the purpose in a school, a student club is attached to the school. It's not necessarily school sponsored. If they get into the subject of sexual orientation or sexual practices, then the law says that we have to have abstinence as a primary emphasis of such a course or that club.
Any other on this policy? I think we probably ought to bring that one back.
Okay, and there's also changes that have been made to the administrative procedures. I don't know if you want to wait and look at those until we address the policy first, but we did do some updates to that.
Right. Well, I think we probably want to bring that policy back.
Do the policy first. Okay.
Well, no, we can address the administration part right now. But I
Okay.
think as far as the policy, can we not approve one without the other?
I would think your procedures need to be reflected in your policy, and so if you're going to make changes like opt in, opt out, that's going to obviously change the administrative procedures and what we require the clubs to do.
Okay.
So that's why I'm thinking they may need to go hand in hand.
Okay. Well,
Generally adopt a policy first, and then adopt the procedure first.
okay.
So,
So we still need to bring it back to the first
correct.
language.
Yes.
But there's still probably things we might want to reflect in that we can go ahead and discuss in the.
Correct. Yes. If you want to look at the administrative procedures, that would be
I
fine.
think we ought to look at those and at least see if there's things off the surface that we want to correct.
Mr. Chairman, isn't the schools responsible as long as that student is on school grounds for any and all activity?
We seem we're liable.
Liability pertains,
Correct.
and that's the reason more for the opt-in, opt-out.
On the club organization criteria, you'll notice in red again all of the changes that were made based on the discussion from last Monday. We have used the term faculty advisor rather than sponsor. There is some clarification there that the members need to be enrolled in the school. Then also down on number 7, I added the director of schools will be notified, so if you decide to change that language, that one would obviously need to be edited as well. And some of the others primarily just cleaning up the language. There is an addition, number 15, that was not in the previous procedures, requiring clubs that have visitors need to have that. They need to present that ahead of time to the administration so they're aware it's a school safety issue from one standpoint of knowing who's on campus at certain times. So that would be included prior to the meeting. And the rest, it looks like it's just verbiage that's been updated.
I have a couple of suggested revisions. The first is with respect to, I think it's number 6. There's 2 number 7s. It's the 6 between the 2 number 7s.
Did I get off on the numbering? I'm sorry. That's copy and paste.
Yeah. I would like to add a clause at the end of that number 6, which so if everyone can see it up there, but it would read faculty advisors to be present at all club meetings to monitor and ensure discussions follow the set agenda, students sign in for the meeting, eliminate the and, minutes of the meeting are kept, and to ensure that students comply with all applicable board policies, administrative procedures, and school rules.
Can you read that one more time?
Sure, I'll be happy to provide it to you as well. But I'll read it again. The last phrase would be, and to ensure that students comply with all applicable board policies, administrative procedures, and school rules.
Thank you.
The next one is with respect to number 12. I still have an issue with the term no solicitation to the extent that it applies that a student can't go up to ask his or her best friend, hey, I joined this club, can you want to come to the meeting on Wednesday? Though I think I understand where we're trying to get with this idea, I would like to suggest some language, though not specifically wedded to this language. Something like, although individual club members may ask other students if they might be interested in joining a club, no club or club member shall lobby, entice by offering any item of financial value, or apply any undue pressure or threat in connection with inviting individuals to come to a meeting or become a club member. Student members can publicize the club and whom interested individuals may contact to learn about the club or become a member.
I'll have to get that.
I'll send that to you.
I didn't get all of that.
Again, with 13, I think this is an improvement, but I still don't think it gets to where we need to be. I think something more along the lines of the existing clubs or organizations shall not be required to change their meeting times or locations in the event a new club organization proposes to meet in a location at the same time as an existing club or organization. Again, in 14, all clubs, organizations are, and I think I have an issue. I raised this at the work session. What constitutes a positive and community atmosphere and unity is up to interpretation. I think it's too vague. I think I would prefer something that is more clear, such as all clubs, organizations are expected to comply with all applicable board policies, administrative regulations, and school rules. which echoes my suggested revision earlier. 15, if we are going to be requiring school administrators to approve visitors, I think we should have something to make sure that we're not discriminating based on the viewpoint or possible content of the speech of that visitor. Something to like, such approvals shall not be denied based on the viewpoint of the proposed visitor, absent evidence that excluding the visitor is required to maintain order and discipline on school premises and or to protect the well-being of students and faculty. Two more items. I think the 21, with respect to if an organization is found not to be meeting established criteria, I think if the issue does not concern the faculty advisor, the 1 month, period in which to correct that might be reasonable. But if the issue is that the club advisor is either unable or elects not to continue as an advisor, a club might need some additional time to get an advisor. Now, understandably, they would not be allowed to meet on campus without a faculty member present, but I don't think simply because it might take 2 months to get a new faculty advisor that the club should be disbanded. And finally, I think it would be appropriate to have an appeals process where that's set forth in an administrative procedure that if a principal on the leadership team makes a decision, that decision could be appealed to the director of schools.
Mr. Tucker, I'm going to go back to number 6 and make sure I understand what you're saying. You want to strike minutes of the meeting are kept?
No, I was not striking that. I was just adding a phrase.
Well, one of the other things I think we need to put in administrative procedures that are not in here right now that we have discussed is if these administrative procedures are not adhered to, first offense are 2 months of ban on clubs. Second offense is a 6-month ban on clubs. Third offense is discontinue the club. And I know there were languages that you wanted to put in there as well, that help that.
Right.
That's the gist of the principal can offer goodwill judgments in some of these. I don't know how we want to put that in language, but.
Right, and just so people understand, the distinction is between that the failure to keep minutes at one meeting would not be treated the same as if the club meeting went wild and people started running through the halls and vandalizing the hallway. Those are 2 different types of violations of school rules and board policy.
It seems that you would have to have a laundry list of what is acceptable and what isn't. Somewhere along the line, I think there needs to be some subjective opinion by the administrator or the director of schools as to what constitutes disorder.
I think my question at this point might be, is that a part of our administrative procedure, or does that become embedded into policy regarding clubs?
On which one, the offenses? On not adhering to the...
Yes, if not following the procedure would result in the club being forced to disband. Just a question.
I would policy, so we need to add that to the policy section instead of the procedure section.
I think that would be another reason to establish the appeals process, is that for just to have, because there are so many different circumstances, different types of rules and policy violations that could occur, that the decision would at least have a second set of eyes on it.
I asked Mr. Cagle if the appeals process should also be a policy, he said yes. So,
Instead of proceeding.
right.
Anything else on the procedure list that anybody wants to discuss? If not, on the closed organization application, if we adopt the parental permission,
Right.
that needs to be added to this,
Correct.
I'm assuming, application. Or is that, do they have a membership form?
I'll look into that, because we need to figure out which comes first. They would have to have the permission before they were able to establish a faculty advisor to participate in the club. So I'm not real sure how,
But even on this application process, the students that initiated the club would have to have parental permission
Right,
to
so maybe
initiate.
that's why the parental permission should probably come first, but I'll need to get that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also been some discussion about verbiage in, I guess, procedures. I need clarification on that, about how meetings are to be announced, and specifically the areas that those should be placed in and what they should look like. Should that be procedure?
There is a procedure in here that talks about posting advertisements in a designated area that the school administration has established. I know here at Franklin County High School they put up bulletin boards, and that's the only place that we're posting things, primarily because it was running the paint on the walls when they would post things and we pull it down after the event occurred. So Mr. Mandu has set up those, and I'm not sure about the middle schools in Huntington. I would have to check on that. But we do say in the procedures that it has to be posted in the designated area.
At Franklin County High School, for instance, when we say designated area, how many designated areas would that be?
5, we're getting 5.
Okay, anything else on any of the three of these?
I have a question about student membership in these various clubs. I think you added 10 members to form, and I don't recall exactly where, but I think there's some language about if the number dips to a certain, if the number decreases, the club could be disbanded. I think we need a definite number on that.
I think in the actual law, you can't require a number.
Okay.
So you cannot, so maybe number 2, that 10 students, must have 10 students
Have some kind of number to
to
establish a club.
establish. Pardon?
We would need some type of number to establish a club. I mean, a club of 2 people is not really a club, is it?
For the procedures, you can stipulate the designated number.
Procedures you use. But that's to establish. Do you think we need more to a number of the club should be named? And I think the review by the administration on a quarterly basis would address that.
Correct, and then each club is reviewed annually with all of the documentation for sign-in sheets, meeting minutes, and agendas. So there would be a determination made at that point if the enrollment is not sustainable.
So we can't put a number on it.
can put a number,
Like it dips below 6.
I'm going to let Mr. Peck speak.
you can put a minimum number on the number of initial and continued members that you have. What most school systems do is they fix that number, and let's just for the purpose of example, say that's 6. They'll fix that number, then they have to follow the rules regarding faculty advisor and other things. And if the club falls below that 6 members, they're given a probationary time in order to get membership up if they fall below 6. And if they're not successful within the probationary time, then the club is administratively disbanded. That's generally the activity. That's the way that the administrative process runs. I would put that in your procedure rather than in your policy. And this was the understanding, Mr. Chairman, that this applies to all clubs on campus. It doesn't matter what club it is. It applies to all clubs that are attached to this school or any other school. That they have a minimum number to qualify for admission as into club status.
Can you give us a recommendation on, if you know off the top of your head, what would be a typical response time to get back into status?
It's usually a semester, because after all, you're looking at faculty time and the benefit of faculty meeting 3 students. Let's say they drop from 6 to 3. You are looking at school, the use of school facilities and things like that. So there's generally a semester. You're put on notice at the beginning of the semester. If you haven't achieved the minimum number, then the club is suspended, administratively suspended.
Does that make sense to everyone? Have that language?
I guess that begs the question of what is the number?
Yeah, right.
I think this may have been influencing Mr. Hanger's comment, but there are several clubs based on the information that Dr. Lonis provided us before, I think it was before our last meeting, that have the club numbers or club membership is below 10.
Fewer than 10, but not.
But
yes,
great.
than 6.
I think you're right. I think that the lowest number I recall was 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Is 6 a suggestion?
That did not influence my question. I was just thinking that it needed to be nailed down.
No.
I think we're open to all those suggestions. Is 6 the number, or 5, or 3, I think it does.
It appears, looking at the list now, that 6 is the lowest membership right now.
Because of that, I would drop below 6. And again, I think the reference to faculty time and facility use is important.
So if we say greater than 5,
We're lower than 6, 5 or less.
we have that one.
5 or less is what we agree.
Okay, anything else on these 3 policies? Or the policies, the operating procedures, and the application? We'll bring those changes back in April. Okay, any other changes to that policy? Okay, if not, then we will, that takes care of all business. Is there any new business we need to talk about? If not, we do have an April 4th work session scheduled. April 11th will be the regular board meeting.
And that's one he
So,
said.
Are we going back to South at April?
That was the intent.
The workshop will be at the board.
Correct.
further business, Chair, entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any adjourned?